Okay, dear ones, I get this question a lot about what is the ego and what is egoic projections, because we have a lot of terminology that gets thrown out there with both psychology and metaphysical or spiritual teaching. My background, my master's is in psychology. My father was a psychiatrist, so that word ego has been thrown around for many, many, many years. I'm going to teach it like I do all my teachings. If you watch me long enough, I do it very, very simplistic. I'm not going to teach you the standard psychology model, and I'm not going to teach you the standard spirituality model. I'm going to teach you my own blend, my way of understanding this. Ego, in a simplest way, is our lower mind. Okay, we come here in physical form. Our ego, which is an aspect of our brain, of our thinking system, was put in place to protect us, okay, meaning physically protect us. If a lion is coming along or what have you, then you have to know how to deal with that. And so we have an animal way of dealing with things. It's usually the lowest two chakras. Our lowest way of thinking is instinct and survival and the fear sense, true fear sense, not thinking about it and feeling emotions fear, but true fear. That weird feeling you get on the back of your neck, that's an instinctual fear sense. That's what told us about the lion. Then the ego was put into place to sort of deal with our left brain and our right brain. Our ego is part of the left brain, the logical, the concrete, okay? Our right brain is the abstract, which goes through the heart. The heart connects to the soul aspect of us, the soul thinking, the higher self thinking. So ego is personal to you. That's the best way to describe ego. Ego is your personality. It's part of your personality. When we say someone's very egotistical, right? It means that when they behave, what they project forth is a lot of, quote, ego, a lot of lower way of thinking. In the higher realms, 4D, not quite 4D, but 5D, there's much, much, much less ego in that sense. That's the simplest way to think of ego. Think of ego as tied to you. It's tied to you and your personality. That's what ego is. It's a primitive way of thinking. It's not a higher level way of thinking. The higher level way of thinking is through your heart, the feelings, the sensing, going into your higher consciousness, your crown chakra, meaning you feel and sense, and you put very little thinking on it, and you put very little persona, very little of yourself on it. You know people like that when you meet them because they don't brag a lot. They don't try to compete when communicating. The higher galactics, I've read many books on this, that's their biggest frustration with us. On their level, they communicate to commune. The root word is communicate. They don't communicate to compete, and they say we here on planet Earth communicate to compete. That's the ego. We want to be right. We want to get our story out. Oh yeah, you said something pretty cool. Now I want to say something pretty cool. That's ego, you see. So the ego is, think about it as like a younger child, whereas our higher self is a very advanced adult. That's a simplistic way to think of ego. So then what is ego projection? We're all here to relate to each other. Relating is doing the same thing as what we're all doing here, learning, expanding, growing. We put this romantic notion on relating that, oh, I'm going to find the love of my life, my soul partner, my twin soul, etc., right? And there's validity to those things. But we put this romantic notion on relationships. Relationships really only serve the purpose of teaching us about ourselves with another being, right? We relate first and last to ourselves, but when there's another person involved, we're learning, growing, expanding with them. Projection of ego is what you feel in those examples I'm giving, or somebody who gets angry with you because you, quote, triggered them. You triggered their ego. You triggered that small child part of them. You triggered some soul lesson in them. And so the egoic projection is simply an indicator that you're dealing with some aspect of themselves or yourself, depending upon how you respond, That's an egoic projection. It's an indicator, because all we're doing here in life is going through our manifestation, our creation. Life reflects back to us. Life also, as other people, reflects back to us. And so life is really like this gigantic mirror showing us ourselves, showing us our ego, our lower way of thinking, and showing us how we can bring our thinking and our consciousness and our vibration higher. So think of ego as an indicator. It's like a speedometer on your car, or a temperature gauge, because there is what they call emotional temperature. And so if somebody is projecting their ego onto you, even in psychology, they use that word projecting. Notice what my hands are doing. It's an outward energy. They're projecting their crap onto the world, onto you. They're projecting what their struggle is. That's ego projection. You see, it can have soul relationships, etc. But in reality, that's what's going on. Ego projection and ego has to do with relating and how we think. That's what ego is. So if you find yourself in the moment, in any moment, and you're thinking on a cruder level, fear, anxiety, etc., anything that's not ultimate of love. Love, there's no fear. There's the absence of fear. The ultimate love. I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about the energetic, universal love. There's no ego. So ego is our lower mind. Non-ego is our higher mind. It's no more complicated than that. So ego is just simply part of that thinking system. And it's designed because we're here in physical form. The non-physical beings don't have egos. This is why for those of us like myself and others, or go read books who have channeled, you can hear the tone in their voice. There's absolutely no judgment. There's nothing but compassion and love. Those three things I just described, zero ego. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Ask questions. If you want to get into more, we'll talk about it and discuss it. And please share and like for more. And I hope that helps out. Bye-bye for now.